when he speaks to me, it's not like I hear a voice, but I do get a sensation from the inside out, like there's something, radiating in me.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when I think a certain thought, that radiance feeling will just overwhelm me.
Yeah.
And I'll think, wow, that had to come from God. But I was interested, that's my experience. I was wondering, can you describe in maybe a little bit lower level detail about how you feel the Holy Spirit speaks with you?
Well, he just speaks. I mean, it's not a loud, audible voice. It's not what Samuel experienced when he jumped out of bed and ran to see what the priest was calling him. It's a still small voice that speaks to you. You almost have to strain to hear him. And I can always tell when he's going to speak to me. It's just a feeling I get, and I'll pick up my pen, or I'll be at the computer anyway, and he'll say, I want to speak to you, and I'll say, go ahead, and we'll talk. But this has taken years to get to this point,
So, and he does say that my sheep will hear, Jesus, I think Jesus said, my sheep will hear my voice.
Yes, and you know what, he talks to every person. I think he reaches out to you the way that he can relate to you, how you'll relate to him, because every person has their own individual, unique relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he will reach to you how you will relate to him.
Yes.
And so,
and I believe that, too. He meets everybody at, where they are and their state.
Yeah, he has their own unique relationship with them. No two people have the same relationship with him.
Well, when you hear from the Holy Spirit, maybe I ask it this way: do you know already? Do you have the understanding that is there, or do you have to listen and then process the information like we're speaking now?
And he talks to me like we're talking right now.
Okay.
He talks to me very clearly. He doesn't speak to me in parables or symbolisms, he speaks to me very clearly. And the thing downfall I have that don't put enough on my website to the things he says to me. What I'll do is I'll write them out and I'll send them to my friend, my partner Rhonda, and I share everything with her and maybe some people around me. But I don't post on my sites probably enough of what he says to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I probably talk to him every day. I could have a message from him every day. Especially lately when he said time is over. And it kind of took me by surprise,
Well, if there's anything that would, if there's one word that I could throw out there that has increased my ability to feel like the Holy Spirit is reaching me better, is obedience. I've learned, more than I used to know about what obedience is.
Yeah.
I've been a professing Christian for 35 years, but a disobedient one.
Yes, seeking him, that's the bottom line. And he's going to talk to you and deal with the people, his children, that want to hear from him, that can hear from him, that have given commitments to him. Mm-hmm. So many people complain they don't hear from him, and yet they only give him maybe 50 or 60% commitment to him.
And acting is important, not just thinking about it and talking about it and pretending about it, but making emotion,
Yes, it's 100% commitment to him. It's letting him transform you completely. I pray constantly for his eyes, a greater measure of his eyes, ears, and heart, things that are of him. And it all comes down to the things you're asking and seeking from him, too. People just pray and they ask for their Christmas list early, I want this, I need this, I need that, I need this, and I don't even think of those things because he already knows what you need before you ask.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I'd like to say to you is that you really have it all sorted out and pieced together, and it makes me feel comfortable. But the more that I learn about different things, whether I'm studying about 9/11 or, the fallen angels in Genesis 6 or whatever, it basically fills in a piece of the puzzle. Yeah. And God is not a God of confusion. So as we're learning this stuff and trying to put it together, and the Holy Spirit's granting us, discernment, it's coming together. It's not falling apart.
Yeah, that's such a good way of saying it.
Yeah,
it's like you're saying people's faith needs to get stronger, not falling apart like the sand. And some of the stuff that's coming up, because everything is part of their agendas for the end times. We know what's going to happen, but the way we get there is going to throw a lot of people off. And so these 9/11s are going to throw people for a loop. The fact that they allow the Russians to attack our cities is going to throw people for a loop. And all of these things lead to the things he says that are going to happen.
Yeah, some of those things that you say are very surreal to me. I just can't imagine it. But then, you look at 9/11. And
well, try imagining 4 years ago when no one was really out there, maybe Rick Vizzuti over at Star Gods and Guy Malone at Alien Resistance. Nobody had up alien websites.
Yeah.
And I put up a website, and I started warning people of the coming UFO and alien invasion. People thought I was crazy. And now what do we have? A guy going around calling down UFOs from the sky.
Well, you might be interested to know that about 5 years ago, when I really started to try to understand God and, what it was all about, and I started looking at different versions of the Bible and whatever process, I don't remember exactly, but the very first passage that I got, that the Holy Spirit granted me discernment on when I was studying about end times and whatnot, oddly enough, was Genesis 6. About the sons of God coming to the daughters of man.
Yeah.
And, it hit me so clear. I didn't understand, how I could have missed it before. That was that clear.
Well, because people misinterpret the passages. They misinterpret Revelation chapter 9. They misinterpret Daniel's vision of the kingdom of iron mixed with clay. And I started printing out verses and scriptures that relate to aliens, UFOs, and the hosts of heaven, and I came up with 23 pages of printed scriptures.
Mm-hmm. They just don't want to hear it, I guess they just don't want to hear it.
Yeah, and so...
The dogma set up around what they're supposed to believe and how they're supposed to relate it.
People have to realize that it's okay to throw away errors, to say, I don't know what I believe, and I'm just waiting to hear it till I hear the truth, and that the Lord leads you to what that is. I mean, I had to throw out a lot.
Right.
I had to throw out a lot.
Mm-hmm. As I started filtering through information, and it's mostly been through the internet, but I've ordered many, many, many books also, I try to keep an open mind. I'm not scared of information. A lot of people are scared of information, and I just let it sit there, suspended, and read more, and in a while, it has a place. It fits in after you. But I don't try to accept or reject anything, right off the bat.
Yeah, just be aware of everything that could happen.
Don't
get stuck on tunnel vision.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that tunnel vision. Well, let me get to my main question for calling you, because I know there's probably some other people who want to talk. I just landed onto this verse in 1 Peter, and I was interested what your comment would be on it. Would you let me read it to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, it's 1 Peter 5. It's 1 Peter 3, and it's 18 and 19. It says, "For Christ also hath once suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, that he might bring us to God, being put to death in the flesh, but quickened by the Spirit, I'm reading from King James, and verse 19, by which also he went and preached unto the spirits in prison, which sometime were disobedient, when once the long-suffering of God waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was a preparing, wherein few, that is, 8 souls, were saved by water." Now, this floored me, because that means, what I read from that is that once Christ died, even though he died in the flesh, he was quickened by the Spirit and did some type of work, preaching to spirits that, and the way I understand it, those spirits that came down, the Nephilim, and all that stuff, somehow in the book of Enoch that I've got a hold of, I haven't read it all, but, they were bound in chains or whatever, is that right?
Yeah, the angels that were being held in Tartarus, all those that had rebelled against the Lord.
Could that verse mean that Jesus had work to do in his death, during that part of his death where he was,
Yeah, he wasn't in the grave. He was preaching. He was in preaching.
What would he be preaching to those angels that were cast down by the judgment of God way back in the Noah?
He preached to them. He preached to the people that had died during the Old Testament times that hadn't heard of his salvation, that were allowed to give a second chance. Because you got to remember, at that time there was the upper bosom of Abraham and the lower, and the lower